Randy Altman with postPerspective. We're here at NAB 2019, and this is Patrick Palmer from Adobe. Adobe had some great new updates to Creative Cloud for NAB. One of the things that's making a big buzz, people are just loving, is content-aware fill in After Effects. Can you tell people what that is and why people are so jazzed about it?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Randy. Always a pleasure. Content-aware fill indeed has been a big hit well before After Effects, right? We've had that in Photoshop, and this is also where the idea was born. We just tried to see what would happen if we would do this for video, and then obviously that wasn't a great thing, as, well, you guessed it, motion just gets in the way. So all the things that you can hide on a still very easily and it doesn't get easily noticed, as soon as you have a progression throughout a scene, then it becomes 10 times, sometimes 100 times harder to do that. So our research unit has been busy doing that. We actually sneaked that something like 2 years ago, and we have shown it as a technology preview, and you never know what's going to happen. Can we make it real? And in this case, fortunately, the answer is yes. It's in After Effects, and it's actually uncanny to see what happened in market. We've had it in market now for less than a week. We see tons and tons of examples how users get playful with it and just show what is possible with it. And sometimes, quite frankly, also what's funny about it when it doesn't work.
Well, talk about that a little bit. So it works, but sometimes it doesn't. So what are the parameters? What do people need to know about making it work?
Right. Well, first of all, what does it do? Well, it removes objects that are not wanted or get in the way or should not have been there. That's usually the case, should not have been there in the first place. Things you couldn't get out of the way, and then usually you would still want to have a clean plate, by the way. If you get anything that gives additional texture, you can actually feed something from Photoshop into the process for refinement. That's pretty neat. But that said, it works on something that has no additional information. It magically grades pixels for you. That works best the more granularity there is, the more texture there is, the more surrounding pixels you have for the object that you want to remove. We have a great example here that Jason Levine is using at the show of a road with a cyclist going down the road and the car passing by. And we didn't like the car in that shot, right? But, you know, documentary, can't control it.
Yeah, that's right.
So we wanted that out for the teaser at least, to create something that is just in terms of atmosphere the right thing to do. And that works just beautifully because the street around it has enough information to replace that. So the more motion of the camera there is, the more content information all around it there is, the more beautiful the result. It goes wrong with a certain amount of complexity, and certainly if there's a lot of compression in the original, that might get tricky too. That's really hard to imitate so it looks natural.
Sure. And it's powered by, is it powered by Sensei, which is
yes,
your AI
it is. Oh,
engine?
thank you for making my marketing people happy. It is powered by Adobe Sensei very much.
Yeah.
That's kind of our brand terminology we use for everything that is powered by something, machine learning, pattern recognition, and of course a magical experience. It's got to be that, right? It's just good technology, who cares? But this thing, and I think we just talked about, the user response to it so far has been phenomenal because it's just that. It's a great experience and a huge time saver.
How else is it being used across the Creative Cloud line?
Oh, we've been using Sensei for all sorts of things in the last couple of years. It's usually under one umbrella if you want to look at it from the very high level perspective. It's all about saving time, removing tedious kind of work. So think of Audition, which I think we introduced exactly 1 year ago in Audition and Premiere Pro. That was the same idea. Can we actually be very intelligible about the original content, see what it is, what typically would be a good relationship between sound effects, the actual dialogue and the music track, and then just all very neatly blend that together so you'd get a really professional outcome, or at least a very good starting point to just tweak a little and fine-tune the keyframes instead of just going in all in manually. Right,
yeah, it saves you time, it gets you to
it gives you a head start, and by the way, all of them have one thing in common: we give you control over the outcome. So it's not just something that's either good or not good. Same thing is actually true for content-aware fill. All of the After Effects magic can then still be used to fine-tune a little, but the difference is, hours of setup versus, that's just 10 minutes, and then I'll start just doing what I do as an After Effects artist. I'll just make it really work and do the 2 or 3 things that might still be left to do. It's not a magic bullet. None of these things are, quite frankly, right? Yeah. Machine learning gives you a great head start for creative tasks as far as I can tell. I have yet to see any technology that is as good as someone who has an aesthetic expectation for the outcome.
Well, also you don't want to take the creativity out of it. You want the artists to be artists.
Absolutely. It's about empowering the creative. I have yet to see an example, by the way, not just coming from us. We have a specific intention, but if you look around, tell me if you see this otherwise, I have yet to see a convincing example of where a machine is actually producing something that is truly original and exciting and new and surprising.
Right, yeah, and I know people are a little scared about that, but there's no intention of taking...
Right? What you don't know is what makes you think about it, but I actually love to have this conversation because it gives us even more focus to look at the tools that truly make the difference.
Okay, well, that's a nice segue to, so what's new in Premiere? There's freeform, correct? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, freeform is actually onto something completely different, I guess, because this is not about technology at all. It's just about a great experience. And this is something that we're really focusing on at this point. We have more designers than we've ever had in the business unit, and we have more user research done to see what truly actually empowers the creative to do a certain task and look at it differently from what's already in the product or what anybody else in the industry has done for that matter. If, by the way, there's something out there that's great and we can bring to the product, fantastic, but this has really been an evolution. Well, what is for freeform? We might want to explain that too.
Yes.
It's another way of looking at your project media. Look at your bins, organize it in different ways, build stacks, lay out as a storyboard, make things larger or smaller. You can hover scrub. We've really pushed everything we've got in terms of organizing media into that view. So you have now label colors in it, which previously we didn't have in the thumbnails, and people told us that really would empower you to sort by the labels and have a visual identification of, for example, what's your B-roll, what's the second best take, whatever you're using the labels for.
Sure.
It's just, it's a very playful thing to organize your media before it goes into the sequence.
Gotcha, so it's really about efficiency, essentially.
It's efficiency, but I also think the feedback that we've gotten so far is it makes you look at your media a different way. So it is creatively empowering because it takes it away from there's storage and there's files and then they come in a certain way into your bin. You're already stuck with a technical arrangement and you only get creative by the time you push it into the sequence. There is no reason for not getting started with that pretty much as soon as there is any media for you to look at.
Right, okay, so there's other tools obviously. Can you touch on Character Animator and what's new with that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, let's quickly touch on the other tools in general. So Character Animator for sure has been a great product for us since we released it, I think pretty much here at NAB, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago. It's been in market now, it's had some evolution since. It's shifted in some interesting ways that what we originally thought, empowering people who have never done any character animation, nothing in animation really, but have the skill set to use Photoshop and Illustrator to create really interesting characters, to bring them to life, to breathe life into them with very easy ways, like looking at you with the camera and the microphone and use you basically to give input to what the character should do. That's been hugely successful for that part, but even more so in live situations, like if you've seen anything on the Colbert Show with a character in his chair, well, that's how it's done, and so many other shows have adapted that, but we've also seen that Twitch users have generated huge interest in doing the same. And that speaks to me, that makes perfect sense. On Twitch, this is kind of the perfect thing to have an interaction with the character, and we've extended that with a direct Twitch integration, so you can now even have your user animate certain things that you make available to your user. So if there should be a wave or a cup or whatever it is that you bring to the character, you can make that an interactive experience with your audience. Really, truly fantastic.
Very cool. Audition, do you want to talk about that?
Oh, absolutely, because as we all know, might be 5% of the budget, but it's 50% of your video.
Absolutely, yeah.
So audio workflow is obviously hugely important. Actually, I'll start with, I'm a sneaky guy that way, with something that changed in Premiere, because we're always looking at what's happening between the two products.
Sure.
A lot of customers on User Voice, which is our platform for gathering feedback, told us that the track mixer in Premiere really needs to have similar options than what we see in Audition to move things around, copy and paste, change the order. So that's what we brought to Premiere this cycle, next to many other things on User Voice that have been requested over the year. But in Audition itself, it turns out that podcasting, probably talking to the wrong audience here, because you know that much more than I do. It's gone through the roof again, right?
Absolutely.
After a couple of years of being really stagnant, there's traction for podcasting.
Yes.
And what do you need? Well, punch and roll is a good thing for that kind of thing. And so Audition has gained that capability, wonderfully integrated into the interface, very fluid, very natural experience. So we're paying tribute to the voiceover artists as much as to the podcast audience and making sure that they get what they need. Was also pretty high on our list for requests on User Voice for Audition.
Very cool. Well, we're going to wrap up in a second, but what do you think is next for you guys? Can you talk about that at all?
We're definitely becoming a ton more design-led, so whatever is next, expect that to just be really nicely user-tested well before it goes into the product. We've been an engineering-driven company, and that's not going to change anytime soon. We're excited about bringing great technology to life for our creatives to use it, but at the same time, the more we see things like the Sensei platform evolve, it's got to come with something that's clearly catering to the creative mind. So expect more of those things to actually come in parallel. And as I said, sometimes we might actually find that the technology isn't that interesting, but the experience that we created to go alongside with it is something we're going to push in front of the user.
Enabling the creative.
Enabling experiences, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Randy.
Good to see
Always
you
a
again.
pleasure.
Yeah. I'm Randy Altman with postPerspective. We're at NAB. Thanks for watching.